Have you ever noticed that healing sometimes feels strange? You begin to think more deeply about yourself. You become more aware of your emotions. You try to better understand your past, and instead of immediately feeling inner peace, new emotions suddenly begin to surface. Old memories return. Some relationships start to feel different. Feelings you have long suppressed rise to the surface. And maybe you quietly ask yourself, if I'm healing, why does this feel so difficult? The truth is, healing rarely begins with comfort. Often, the beginning feels confusing, emotional, or even uncomfortable. Because healing means allowing yourself to finally feel the things your mind once buried, simply to protect you. But these uncomfortable moments are not necessarily a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes, they are the clearest sign that something inside you is beginning to change. Here are 9 uncomfortable signs that you may be healing. The first sign is that you begin to truly allow your emotions. When someone has lived in survival mode for a long time, emotions are often suppressed. Life becomes more about control, logic, and simply getting through each day. Feelings can seem too intense or too painful, so they are buried deep inside. But when healing begins, those emotions slowly return. You may notice sadness where there was once emptiness. You may feel anger about things you previously accepted, or you may experience moments of joy or relief that feel new and unfamiliar. At first, this can feel overwhelming. But emotions are not enemies. They are messages from within. As you learn to allow them, you begin to understand something important. Emotions are like waves. They rise, move through you, and eventually fade. The second sign is that you begin to set boundaries. For many people, saying no is difficult. The fear of disappointing others or creating conflict often leads them to ignore their own needs. But during healing, something begins to shift. You start to recognize that your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being are valuable. Protecting them is not selfish. It is an act of self-respect. At first, setting boundaries may feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable. But over time, you realize that healthy relationships require honesty. Boundaries create clarity, and that clarity strengthens your sense of self. The third sign is that you begin to accept your past. Everyone carries experiences that have left emotional marks. Some are painful, unfair, or difficult to understand. Many people try to move forward by pretending these things never happened. But healing asks something different. You begin to acknowledge that these experiences are part of your story. You recognize that certain people, places, and events have shaped you. This realization can feel heavy at first. But once you stop fighting the truth, those memories often begin to lose their power over you. You start to understand your story in a new way. The fourth sign is that you become less reactive and more reflective. When someone has lived in survival mode, the mind reacts quickly. Situations are immediately perceived as threats, and responses happen automatically. This can show up as anger, withdrawal, avoidance, or people-pleasing. But during healing, something subtle changes. A small space appears between what happens and how you respond. In that space, you begin to reflect. You may ask yourself questions like, why does this situation trigger me so strongly? Where does this reaction come from? These moments of self-reflection deepen your understanding of yourself. Over time, you develop stronger emotional regulation. The fifth sign is realizing that healing is not linear. Many people believe healing should feel like constant progress, getting better every day. But in reality, healing rarely follows a straight path. There will be days when you feel strong and clear, and there will be days when old emotions resurface. This can feel frustrating, but part of healing is understanding that these ups and downs are natural. Growth often happens in waves. What feels heavy today may feel lighter tomorrow. The sixth sign is that you begin stepping outside your comfort zone. Healing brings awareness, and with awareness comes courage. Things that once felt impossible begin to feel possible. You may speak up in situations where you once stayed silent. You may try new experiences or make changes in your life. Every small step outside your comfort zone strengthens your trust in yourself. The seventh sign is that you begin handling disappointment differently. Life will always have highs and lows, but when someone is emotionally hurt, disappointment can feel overwhelming. It can feel like everything is falling apart. But during healing, your perspective begins to change. You may still feel sadness or frustration, but those feelings no longer define your entire sense of self. You begin to understand that difficult moments are part of life, but they do not define your whole life. The eighth sign is that you begin to feel more inner peace. As healing continues, different parts of your life start to come together. You understand your past better. You understand your emotions better, and you understand yourself better. Instead of constantly criticizing yourself, you develop more compassion for yourself. You begin to forgive your past mistakes. You may also find it easier to forgive others, not because everything that happened was okay, but because holding on to resentment keeps you tied to the past. As this inner conflict begins to fade, something valuable emerges: peace. The ninth sign is that you become more open to support. Many people who have lived in survival mode for a long time develop strong independence, often because they didn't receive help when they needed it. Because of this, accepting support can feel unfamiliar. But healing brings an important realization. You don't have to carry everything alone. Over time, you may begin to open up to people you trust. You allow yourself to receive help and support. This doesn't mean you are weak. It means you understand how important connection is for healing. If you recognize some of these signs in your life, it may mean that your healing journey has already begun. And even if this path sometimes feels uncomfortable, these moments are often signs that something inside you is shifting. Healing takes time. It takes patience. And most importantly, it takes compassion for yourself. Sometimes, the most difficult moments in the process are the very ones that slowly lead you back to inner peace.